In this video, we are going to be solving and figuring out all the missing pieces to this triangle. Okay, so it may be a combination of law of sines, maybe or law of cosines, maybe a combination of the two. We have to figure out what we have. So I start off with thinking that I'm going to be able to use law of sines. But in order to use law of sines, which is a proportion, I need one full fraction, which means I need an angle and a side across from that angle. So if I look at my picture here, I don't have an angle and a side across from it. I have a side, but I don't have the angle. I have a side, but I don't have the angle. So I can't do law of sines, which means I have to do law of cosines, which are these. So what we are missing, we're not missing an angle, we are, but we are missing a side. Is we have two sides at an angle in between, which is exactly perfectly set up for law of cosines. So we have basically this situation where if we're missing a side, that means we have two sides and the angle in between. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that formula right there in order to solve it. So let me write it out and we're going to throw some values into it. So we're going to be doing a squared is going to equal b squared plus c squared minus 2b times bc times cosine of the angle in between, which is angle A. All right, so we have a corner, which definitely screams law of cosines. So the A value we don't know. The B value we do know. It's 5. It's across from angle B. So it's 5 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times those exact same two values. So 5 times 6 times cosine of the angle in between, which we know. Okay, so we can throw all that into a calculator, and that's going to be equal to a squared. All right, I have no idea what that is, but we're going to find out. So we're going to do 5 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times 5 times 6 times cosine of 42. All right, so that should get us 16.41 blah, blah. So 16.41 blah. All right, now I don't want to lose any of that value, but I still have to finish solving for A. So in order to get the square out of there, I am going to square root both sides, which means I'm going to square root. So right there, square root this value. And that's going to give me my length of A, 4.1. So our A value is 4.1. Wonderful. So now I'm going to throw that on a picture. That length is 4.1. And now we have one full fraction, which means I can do law of sines if I would like to. Okay, which I'm going to opt into. So I can set this up as sine of 42 over 4.1 is going to equal, now I just kind of pick an angle. Let's say we go with C. So that would be sine of C over side C, which is 6. All right, so I cross multiply. I have 4.1 times sine of C equals 6 times sine of 42. When I cross multiply, I'm going to divide by 4.1 to get the sine of C by itself, trying to eventually get C by itself. So I'm sitting with sine of C equals some decimal. All right, so I don't know what that decimal is, but we're going to take 6 times sine of 42 divided by 4.1. Okay, 0.97 blah, blah, blah. 0.97 blah, 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 blah. All right, so now I need, the last thing I need to do is to figure out what C is. I'm going to do the inverse sine of that decimal, but I'm going to do the inverse sine of all of it. Okay, I want to keep it as accurate as possible. So inverse sine of that is going to get me my angle. So we got a 78.3. So C is 78.3 degrees. And then I'm going to put that on the picture and see what we've got. So C is 78.3. All right, perfect. Which is, we don't have to do much more because we know 2 out of the 3 angles. So we can finish off finding angle B by taking 180 minus 42 minus 78.3. And if we throw that into the calculator, we would get a 64.2 degrees. All right, and then one last quick spot check. 64.2. Largest angle, largest side, that matches. And then smallest angle, smallest side, that matches. So that means very likely all that stuff worked out exactly the way it's supposed to. And those are the right answers. All right, so that was initially using law of cosines to find a side, and then we can shift to law of sines to finish off finding the rest of the triangle pieces.